The sharp sound of thick paper tearing cut through the afternoon chatter at the main gates of Oakwood Private Academy. Eleanor Sterling, the school's director of admissions, stood with her chin raised, her manicured fingers aggressively ripping a heavy brown envelope in half. She did not stop there. With a look of pure disgust, she tore the pieces again, throwing the shredded remnants directly at Lauren's chest. The pieces fluttered down, landing on the rusted frame of the old bicycle Lauren was holding. Beside the bike, 7-year-old Mia shrank back. Tears welled in the little girl's eyes as she watched the tall woman in the designer suit humiliate her mother. "Take her student identification badge," Sterling commanded, not breaking eye contact with Lauren. "They do not belong here." Officer Briggs, the head of campus security, stepped forward heavily. His hand trembled slightly as he reached down and unclipped the gold-trimmed Oakwood badge from Mia's uniform collar. The child let out a soft whimper, burying her face into her mother's worn denim jacket. A crowd of wealthy parents had gathered by the iron gates. Some pulled out their smartphones, their camera lenses focused on the spectacle. A woman in a cashmere coat whispered loudly about how people like that always try to cheat the system. Lauren did not yell. She did not cry. She stood remarkably still, her hands resting calmly on the chipped handlebars of her bicycle. Her silence unnerved a few onlookers, but it only fueled Sterling's arrogance. "You are a stain on this academy," Sterling sneered, her voice echoing across the courtyard so every parent could hear. "We have a reputation to maintain. We do not tolerate frauds who forge financial documents to steal seats from families who actually contribute to society." Lauren looked down at the shredded paper scattered across the pavement, then slowly raised her eyes to meet Sterling's. Her voice was quiet, yet it carried a weight that made the nearest parents take a step back. "You just tore up the future of this school," Lauren said. "If you love stories where arrogance meets its match, hit that subscribe button for more." 3 hours earlier, the morning sun poured into a modest, neat kitchen on the edge of the city. Lauren stood at the counter, humming softly as she packed a turkey sandwich into Mia's lunchbox. There were no marble countertops or crystal chandeliers here, just the warm, lived-in feel of a home built on love and careful choices. Lauren zipped the lunchbox and smiled at her daughter, who was busy tying her sneakers. "Ready for your spelling bee today, sweetie?" "I know all the words, Mom." Mia beamed, grabbing her backpack. "Are we taking the bike?" "Of course we are." The bicycle in question sat leaning against the front porch. It was an ancient, heavy-framed model, its original blue paint mostly hidden beneath patches of rust. For Lauren, this bike was not a sign of poverty. It was a monument to her survival. 10 years ago, long before she built a global green logistics empire, she had pedaled this exact bicycle through rain and snow, delivering packages to keep a roof over her head. Now, as a billionaire CEO, she kept the bike to remind herself of the grind and to teach Mia that the value of a person was never measured by the price of their vehicle. Before leaving the house, Lauren picked up a thick brown envelope from the dining table. Inside rested a meticulously drafted contract and a certified cashier's check for $50 million. It was a massive philanthropic grant designed to build a new research wing for Oakwood and, more importantly, to establish a permanent fund for low-income students. She tucked the envelope safely into her canvas tote bag. She had a private meeting scheduled with the board chairman at 3 o'clock to finalize the donation. She wanted no press, no grand ceremony. She just wanted to give back. "Hold on tight, kiddo," Lauren said, securing Mia's helmet. She pushed off the curb, the rusty chain clicking in a familiar rhythm. They rode toward the academy, laughing, completely unaware of the dark storm gathering at the school gates. The wrought iron gates of Oakwood Academy gleamed in the afternoon light. Lauren parked her bicycle near the main entrance, dusting off her jeans. She checked her watch. She was 20 minutes early for her meeting with Mr. Vance, the board chairman. Mia was still in her afternoon reading group, so Lauren approached the administrative steps to wait. Eleanor Sterling was standing near the stone pillars holding a clipboard. Her eyes narrowed the moment she spotted Lauren. Sterling's gaze tracked slowly from Lauren's scuffed boots to the faded canvas tote bag and finally to the rusted bicycle chained to the visitor's rack. A look of profound distaste washed over her features. "Excuse me." Sterling stepped into Lauren's path, blocking the walkway. "This entrance is reserved for parents and authorized faculty. The delivery area is around the back, next to the dumpsters." Lauren offered a polite smile. "I am a parent. I am also here for a scheduled appointment with Mr. Vance. I was told to wait near the administrative wing." Sterling let out a dry, patronizing laugh. "Mr. Vance does not take walk-in appointments, especially not with people who look like they wandered in off the street. Our security protocols are very strict regarding campus access." "I have the documents for the meeting right here," Lauren said, reaching toward her tote bag to present the brown envelope. Before she could pull it out, Mr. Hayes, a young homeroom teacher, walked out of the double doors. Recognizing Lauren, he smiled. "Good afternoon, Mia's mom. Can I help you find Mr. Hayes?" Sterling snapped her voice like a whip. "Return to your classroom immediately. I am handling the security risk." Hayes froze, his face flushing. He looked at Lauren apologetically, then at the furious admissions director. He knew Sterling's reputation for destroying the careers of teachers who crossed her. Lowering his head, he retreated inside. Sterling turned back to Lauren, her expression hardening into a mask of cruel authority. She had spent years cultivating an elite image for Oakwood, and she had just decided that this woman and her rusty bike would no longer be part of it. By 3 o'clock, the courtyard began to fill with luxury sedans and sports cars. Parents stepped out, adorned in designer clothes, waiting for their children. Sterling saw the growing audience and strategically raised her voice, ensuring her words carried across the pavement. "I have reviewed your file," Sterling lied smoothly, stepping closer to Lauren. "And it is quite obvious that you falsified your residential address to secure a spot for your daughter. Oakwood standards require transparency, which you clearly lack." Heads turned. A few parents stopped walking, their eyes darting between the elegant director and the woman in the faded denim jacket. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Someone pointed at the rusty bicycle, snickering openly. "I have falsified nothing," Lauren said, keeping her tone even. "If you would just look at the documents in this envelope or place one phone call to the chairman, this misunderstanding would be cleared up instantly. I do not need to look at whatever fabricated sob story you have in that envelope," Sterling retorted, taking another step forward to invade Lauren's personal space. "People of your status always think the rules do not apply to them. You drain resources from the families who actually fund this institution." The dismissal bell rang. Children began pouring out of the building. Mia ran out, spotting her mother, but stopped dead in her tracks when she saw the imposing woman blocking Lauren's path. "Mommy," Mia called out, her small voice trembling. Sterling glanced at the little girl, then back to Lauren, her lips curling into a triumphant smirk. "Your daughter's enrollment is officially terminated due to policy violations. You are trespassing on private property." "Open the envelope," Lauren warned, her voice dropping an octave, the first hint of genuine steel bleeding through her calm exterior. Instead of listening, Sterling snatched the heavy brown envelope right out of Lauren's hands. "I'm confiscating this as evidence of your fraudulent application," Sterling declared loudly to the watching crowd. Without another word, she gripped the top of the envelope and prepared to rip it apart. Sterling's hands moved with vicious intent, tearing the thick brown envelope and its contents down the middle. She ripped the pieces a second time, tossing the shreds directly at Lauren's chest. The fragments of the $50 million check and the carefully drafted contract drifted onto the rusted bicycle and the concrete below. "Officer Briggs," Sterling barked. The burly security guard jogged over, looking uncomfortable. "Yes, Ms. Sterling. Escort this woman off the premises and take the child's ID badge. They are no longer welcome at Oakwood." Mia burst into tears, running to Lauren and wrapping her small arms tightly around her mother's leg. Briggs hesitated. He looked at the crying child and the calm, steady mother. "Ma'am," Briggs muttered to Sterling, his voice low. "The kid hasn't done anything wrong. Maybe we can handle this in the office." "Are you refusing a direct protocol, officer?" Sterling hissed, her eyes wide with manufactured outrage. "Do it, or I will have your badge and your pension by the end of the day." Trapped. Briggs stepped forward, a look of deep shame on his face. He gently unclipped the gold badge from Mia's uniform. Lauren placed a protective hand on her daughter's head, pulling the child closer. Her breathing slowed. The patience she had practiced for years was hanging by a very thin thread. She looked at Sterling not as a mother being bullied, but as an apex predator, analyzing a fatal mistake. "You have no idea what you have just done," Lauren said softly. Sterling scoffed, gesturing for Briggs to remove the bicycle. "I'm protecting this academy from trash. Get that piece of junk off my driveway." Briggs reached for the rusty handlebars. Before his fingers could graze the metal, a convoy of 3 black-armored SUVs rolled aggressively through the open iron gates, tires screeching to a halt right in the middle of the courtyard. The heavy doors of the lead vehicle swung open. A commanding voice cut through the tense air. "Stop right there. Do not touch that bicycle." Mr. Vance, the chairman of the board, hurried out of the SUV, followed by 2 senior board members and a team of men in sharp suits. He had come out personally to welcome their massive anonymous donor, expecting to find her waiting in the administrative lobby. Instead, he saw a crowd of parents, a crying child, and his director of admissions standing over a pile of torn paper. Vance's eyes locked onto the woman in the denim jacket. The blood drained from his face. He pushed past the murmuring parents and stopped respectfully a few feet away. "Madam C.O.," Vance said, his voice laced with shock and deep deference. "Mrs. Lauren, what in heaven's name is happening out here?" The courtyard went entirely still. The parents who had been recording lowered their phones. Sterling blinked her mind, struggling to process the chairman's words. "Madam CEO, Mr. Vance?" Sterling interjected, forcing a nervous, dismissive laugh. "There is a misunderstanding. This woman is a fraud. She was trying to pass off fake financial aid documents. I was just following security protocol." "Quiet," Vance roared. He looked down at the shredded paper scattered around Lauren's boots. He recognized the heavy watermark of his own legal department on one of the torn scraps. Trembling, he bent down and picked up a piece of the cashier's check. The printed words, $50 million, were sliced perfectly in half. Vance stood up, his face purple with rage as he turned his glare on Sterling. "Do you have any idea who this woman is? Lauren is the founder of Zenith Global. She is the single largest benefactor in the history of this state." Sterling staggered back as if she had been physically struck. Her eyes darted wildly from the chairman to the rusty bicycle, and finally to Lauren. The woman she had just publicly humiliated was not a struggling delivery worker. She was the billionaire titan of the logistics industry. "The documents you just destroyed," Vance continued, his voice shaking with fury, "were the contract to build our new science wing and a permanent scholarship fund." Panic set in. Sterling's perfectly composed face crumpled into a mask of desperation. She realized her entire career, her social standing, and her pristine reputation were evaporating in real time. I didn't know," Sterling stammered, backing away. "She didn't introduce herself properly. Look at how she is dressed. Look at that bicycle. Anyone would have made the same assumption. It was a standard risk assessment. Officer Briggs, tell them she was acting aggressively." Briggs crossed his arms, stepping away from her. "I'm not lying for you, Ms. Sterling." Desperate Sterling looked toward the security cameras mounted on the stone pillars. She subtly caught the eye of an administrative assistant hovering near the doors and mouthed the word, "Delete." "Don't bother," a voice called out. Mr. Hayes pushed his way to the front of the crowd. His hands were shaking, but his jaw was set. He held up his smartphone, the screen glowing brightly. "I have the security footage backed up to the cloud server, Mr. Vance, and I have audio from yesterday's staff meeting. Miss Sterling specifically ordered us to find a way to expel Mia because she felt the family didn't fit the tax bracket of our target demographic." Tycoon. Sterling lunged toward the young teacher. "You little liar, I will ruin you." Briggs immediately stepped between them, putting a heavy hand on Sterling's shoulder, stopping her in her tracks. Vance looked thoroughly disgusted. He turned his back on the director. "Eleanor Sterling, You are suspended immediately pending a full board inquiry. Officer Briggs escorted her off the property. She is not to return to her office. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the woman who had terrorized the school for years was marched toward the gates. Sterling kept rambling, blaming the procedures, blaming the parents, blaming everyone but herself. Lauren didn't watch her leave. She knelt down on the concrete, wiping the tears from Mia's cheeks. She hugged her daughter tightly. Vance rushed over, apologizing profusely, but Lauren's eyes were distant. She knew that firing one cruel woman did not fix the underlying rot. By the next morning, the incident had exploded across local news and social media. The video of Eleanor Sterling tearing up a $50 million check went viral. But the internet did what the internet does best. It dug deeper. Investigative journalists uncovered a decade-long trail of discrimination. Sterling had systematically rejected dozens of highly qualified students from lower-income neighborhoods, burying their applications to make room for the children of wealthy donors. The rot ran deep. It wasn't just Sterling. A culture of silence among the staff had allowed it to happen. Teachers were terrified of speaking up. Parents looked the other way as long as their own children benefited. That evening, Lauren sat on the edge of Mia's bed in their modest home, brushing the little girl's hair. The news played silently on a small TV in the corner. "Mommy," Mia asked softly, looking down at her hands. "Yes, my love." Mia hesitated, her small brow furrowed in deep thought. "Mr. Vance was really mad at that lady because you are a boss and you have a lot of money, right?" "He was mad because she did a bad thing, Mia." "But..." Mia looked up, her innocent eyes piercing straight through Lauren's heart. "If you weren't a boss..." "If we were really poor, like she said, would I have been kicked out yesterday?" The hairbrush stopped moving in Lauren's hand. The air in the room felt suddenly heavy. She stared at her daughter, unable to form a quick comfort. Mia had seen right through the victory. The school hadn't protected them because it was the right thing to do. They had protected them because Lauren possessed a special status. If she truly had been the struggling delivery worker she used to be, Officer Briggs would have dragged them out and the wealthy parents would have clapped. Lauren pulled Mia into a tight embrace, resting her chin on the girl's head. A fierce, unyielding resolve settled in her chest. She kissed Mia's forehead. "I promise you, I'm going to make sure that never happens to anyone." She stood up, grabbed her phone, and dialed Vance's private number. The emergency board meeting was held in Oakwood's grand conference room. The atmosphere was thick with anxiety. Chairman Vance slid a glossy folder across the mahogany table toward Lauren. "Ms. Lauren," Vance said, offering a conciliatory smile. "We have prepared a formal public apology. Sterling is permanently banned from the educational sector. We would also like to offer Mia a lifetime honorary scholarship, and we are ready to proceed with your generous $50 million donation whenever you are." Lauren left the folder untouched. She looked at the 12 wealthy board members sitting around the table, desperate to save their institution's reputation. "I don't want your apology," Lauren said, her voice cool and level. "And I certainly do not need a free scholarship for my daughter. You fired Sterling to save yourselves, but you let her operate this way for 10 years. Vance swallowed hard. "What are you suggesting, madame?" "I am giving you a choice." Lauren leaned forward. "Option 1, I withdraw my funding, take my evidence of systemic discrimination to the Department of Education, and let the state revoke your charter." The board members gasped, exchanging panicked looks. "Option 2, Lauren continued, holding up her fingers to list the non-negotiable terms. "You establish an independent oversight committee for admissions. 30% of all incoming classes will be reserved for low-income students fully funded. Mr. Hayes will be promoted to Director of Admissions to oversee this. Finally, you will locate every student Sterling wrongfully rejected over the past decade, issue them a public apology, and offer them financial restitution for their stolen opportunities. That fundamentally changes the structure of our academy," one board member protested weakly. "Yes," Lauren replied without blinking. "It does. You have exactly 60 seconds to decide before I walk out that door." The silence in the room was absolute. Vance looked at the iron determination in Lauren's eyes and knew she was not bluffing. He picked up his pen, his hand trembling, and signed his name on the blank sheet of paper she had pushed toward him. 6 months later, the morning air was crisp and bright. Lauren pushed off the curb, her legs pumping as the rusty old bicycle coasted down the familiar street toward Oakwood Academy. Mia sat on the back, holding on tight, humming a happy tune. They pulled up to the wrought iron gates. The environment had fundamentally shifted. A large welcoming sign now read, "Oakwood Academy, open scholarship applications now available." Officer Briggs stood by the gate. When he saw them, his face lit up in a genuine wide smile. He tipped his hat. "Good morning, Ms. Lauren." "Morning, Mia." "Morning, officer." Lauren smiled back, parking the rusty bike in the front rack right where everyone could see it. As they walked toward the building, a new family was coming up the steps. A mother in a worn waitress uniform looked nervously at the grand architecture, holding the hand of a little boy. Mr. Hayes. Now Director Hayes jogged down the steps, greeting them warmly and shaking the boy's hand, treating them with the utmost respect. Mia let go of Lauren's hand and ran over to the little boy. "Hi. Are you new? I can show you where the library is." The boy smiled, his anxiety melting away, and the two children walked through the double doors together. Lauren stood back watching them go. A profound sense of peace washed over her. She realized that real power was never about proving your wealth to arrogant people. True victory was using whatever strength you had to build a shield for those who were still standing exactly where you used to be. If you were in that courtyard, would you have stood back and recorded a video? Or would you have been the first to step forward and speak up? A person's dignity is never defined by the clothes on their back or the money in their bank account. Tell us what you would do in the comments below. Hit the like button if this story made you think, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories about justice and courage.